Last half hour of the show on a Thursday, that means one thing. It means we go to Seattle and find out what's going on with Niko Moreno, the second half of the Nino and Niko half of the Nino and Niko hour. Man, I feel like I need to be on my third cup of coffee. Are you on number 2?
That's right, baby. I'm on number 2. That's a tough one to say. You know what? The Peter Pat or whatever. It's tough. It's tough to put it all together. But yeah, excited to be here. Cup number 2. Starting to feel that second cup just now. It's been fun. It's been busy out here in the Pacific Northwest, covering a Sounders team that's beginning to give the fans something to smile about. Still not, completely over some things, but at least there is a little bit of hope here in the Pacific Northwest. And we've had a really good Leagues Cup, man. It's been fun. I mean, I know a lot of people have some notions about the Leagues Cup, but I think it's been good, man. It's been feisty, chippy. It's been some really good goals. I mean, it's been interesting.
How interesting has it been for you? Because to your point, folks are either as high or as low on Leagues Cup as they are about Open Cup. They, it's like, I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that either.
Yep.
I don't care. I mean, so you think that Leagues Cup's gaining traction, and obviously wins will do that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you put it perfectly, right? Those who are, just believers that the only way for MLS to realize that they have to provide more of a support and market and embrace the beauty and the history of US Open Cup is to either boycott or not go or not even comment. I've been told, please don't cover it. It's people's prerogatives. And I can respect that. For me, I think that it has gained traction, at least in the entertainment value of each game and the storylines that have been provided, in reviving and kind of throwing a lifeline to certain teams like San Jose that all of a sudden is playing decently, like Austin, that, they're a team that, I wasn't really thinking they were going to be very good in this tournament. And they've gone against the best and they've beat the best. And I mean, it's just been very interesting how this has played out. So, yeah, I think that there is value to it. I think that there's a competition value, and we've seen it on the pitch. And those who say, hey, Mexican teams aren't really taking it seriously or not, I mean, the fights, the arguments, some of the things that we've seen in game, I mean, they care. Anybody that's in this tournament that is out here, they're not vacationing. I mean, this is another tournament for their entire calendar year. So you best believe that they want to win. They want to come out here, and nobody wants to get crow thrown at their face in a tournament like this one. And there's always going to be competition between Liga MX and MLS, and you see that in every single match. So I think that has been interesting. And now it's been kind of cool to see. Yesterday we talked to Brian Smetzer, and he said, I think Mexican teams are getting a taste of their own medicine in terms of the MLS teams have had in the past issues in CCL and tournaments where they're just starting their season. They're not in rhythm. They're just coming off preseason. Now the Mexican teams are coming in with maybe 4-5 games, maybe going into this tournament, and you've seen some of the issues that they've had. So I just think it's been cool. It's been an interesting tournament.
Right now, you look at the standings, and it is a mixed bag for Liga MX. And I know that as we get into the discussion about Leagues Cup, we'll probably end up fixing Leagues Cup by the time we're done with this half hour. Atlas, they won their one match against Houston. Obviously, they're leading the group. Vancouver, Tijuana right now at the bottom after losing their first match in their group. Necaxa lost their first match, and so they've got some uphill climbing to do out west. León lost their first match to Portland, so obviously they got some work to do. Toluca has yet to play in the tournament. Juarez will help eliminate Dallas. Dallas is in the barn, and so Juarez in all caps, they're making it through because Dallas, two losses, you're out. Chivas, they've got some work to do with the matchup against LAG. San Jose's in the barn. They've got 2 points, so Chivas needs a result, and then you get math. Then you look at Pumas and Monterrey, and Austin is in. So either Pumas or Monterrey is going to be out. And that's a big dog in Liga MX that could be out possibly with Monterrey after they lose to Austin. But it's going to be interesting with Pumas and Monterrey being an elimination game. That to me is an interesting element in all of this out west. Santos Laguna, they lose to DC. And so now it comes down to what Atlanta needs to do on the weekend. Pachuca helped eliminate New York Red Bulls. Mazatlan is in the barn at 3 points. And so New England and Nashville, if they turn that into a street fight, Mazatlan could advance. So right now it's a mixed bag. Puebla out. Cruz Azul with work to do. Atletico San Luis with a lot of work to do. Querétaro, a little less work to do. But now it's a mixed bag, I think, this time around so far.
Yeah, it's definitely been a mixed bag. But the clear better teams in terms of 90 minutes and just about every game that I've watched, MLS teams have been a lot better. I mean, that DC United game last night, I mean, they ran over Santos Laguna. And I know Santos Laguna is struggling and they're not even doing well to start off their own year. And they have a whole bunch of work to do in that roster. But, I mean, DC United was a lot better. I mean, it wasn't just a little bit. They were way better. I think that in the San Jose Chivas game, I thought San Jose was better, a lot better. And they, Chivas rescues and goes into penalty kicks and loses that in PKs. But that was late. That was like 89th minute. So I think, Austin, I don't know if I was watching Austin or Austin Villa. I mean, it was just so interesting the way they just decided to come out and play against Monterrey, one of the best teams in Mexico, and it just happens to go their way. They just look so good. Even the Houston Atlas game, which was one of the few Mexican teams that actually beat their MLS opposition throughout the last couple of weeks, and even that game wasn't all that good. Now Dallas, they did throw up a stinker, and they had a couple of chances. Leggett gets one in front of goal. Musa gets one in front of goal, and they can't really put it together. And they end up obviously putting themselves in a bad predicament, in a bad situation. I thought Charlotte was really good against Cruz Azul. Of course, Cruz Azul with Charlie Rodriguez and the rest of that team, they were creating some chances of opportunities. But even with the backup goalkeeper, they end up pulling this one through. And man, Bigham had a huge game. I mean, not big; it was huge. He was just so good. A couple of opportunities within the game, some saves, some spectacular saves, and then in the PK shootout, 2 saves. I mean, I just think MLS teams have been able to do a lot of things. Rotating squad. Playing good soccer, getting the results. I mean, I think it's been a slam dunk for MLS, at least for now in this tournament.
That's still got to drive Liga MX teams a bit crazy that they don't get any home games out of this whole deal. I mean, I know that it'd be kind of cool for those of us who watch it and cover it to get Liga MX teams to have their own home matches in their home stadia, but I get the idea of, TV production and difficulties and borders and customs and all those other things that you've got to figure out. But I mean, there's got to be a point at some time where Liga MX gets home matches in all of this, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, look, attendance hasn't been incredible. And that's something that whether it's groups of fans boycotting it, or whether it's ticket prices, or the fact that some matches aren't necessarily in your season tickets, or whatever it is that's happening. I think that you saw it in Dallas. I mean, that wasn't a site of a full stadium. There's been issues with attendance. So I think that's what held back the idea of doing some games in Mexico, because obviously the money grab is here, and there is some money grab aspects to this tournament.
The TV contract is here too.
is here as well. There is a whole bunch of ways that I think we can make Leagues Cup better, and some other things. Look, hear me out real quick. Me and John Rojas during Soccer Bar, we talked about the idea that there was a little bit of a sense that players in the All-Star game weren't as excited to be there as in the past, and maybe that becomes a little bit stagnant and not as cool. I was saying, why don't you take a page out of baseball All Star Game and maybe have the MLS side, MX side play, and whoever wins that match ends up with you know a semifinal hosted on their end or a final hosted on their end, or starting with the quarter games. You start kind of mix and matching where the hosting is. I don't know, but I do believe that there's been a lot of players like Iñak that have mentioned the fact that I think they don't think it's fair that there is no games played in Mexico. So I think there is an opportunity in the future that can get fixed, and it makes it more interesting, I think. I mean, growing up with Copa Libertadores, I always liked the fact that you had to go win over there, and then maybe you held up over there, you come win it at home. All those things are interesting. So I see this getting better. And again, I do like this tournament, and I am one that hopes it continues to get better, and that fans can get behind it, and that maybe there is the exact same ideology and support from MLS to maybe do something more with U.S. soccer, because the point has been made that fans are upset and why they're upset, and I get why they're upset, and maybe ticket prices and ticketing attendance market. Are they as marketable as Leagues Cup? No, but I think that the fact that U.S. soccer has so much history and richness and beauty of things like playing at Starfire in a semifinal against LAFC. I mean, those are cuckoo things that I think are cool. They're interesting. So I hope that MLS can really get behind that and support both tournaments, and fans can be happy and support both tournaments.
Who have you been most forward to watching in Leagues Cup? I know that there are some of us that sit there and we gravitate toward guys like Gignac. And, for those of us that watch Liga MX on a regular basis, we know what guys like Martin and Gignac can bring to the table. Who have you been most forward to watching in Leagues Cup against Major League Soccer competition?
Salomon Rondon is a guy that his physicality, his experience, and he's had some issues against the opposition. So that one's it's interesting to me, because I always felt like he was a guy that at some point was flirting with MLS as well. And I thought that Red Bulls did a very good job at making him uncomfortable. He still scored, but I thought that that one was interesting. Another player that is always on my mind and that did not have a good game, and that ended up getting shocked by Austin, ends up being Berterame. He's a guy that is another guy that's further with MLS, and that I think he's a fantastic player, and it hasn't really come through. Tecatito Corona is another guy that I always keep my eye on, that I like to see him play. I think he's fun. He was my son's favorite player when he was in his heyday, and my son was a lot younger, so I always keep my eye on him. So those are some of the guys that they're interesting. I want to see. I don't know if Alexis Vega is injured or what the deal is with him, but I want to see more of Alexis Vega. He's a guy that I've always liked. I feel like he's one of the guys that for Chivas is always fun to watch. And then, of course, the MLSers. Cade Cowell, who had an awful game against San Jose. I mean, an awful game. I felt bad for him. I mean, I don't know if it was the pressure, but he just looked nervous. I mean, the first touch was bad. Opportunities in front of goal was bad. He ends up missing his PK. Brandon Vasquez, of course, another one. And so those little storylines have been interesting.
When you look at Seattle, I know a lot of folks are our buddy Nino, he was kind of wondering whether or not he should ask another Rui Diaz question. But I'll ask a Rui Diaz question. How is he physically, considering what happened with the contact in a match? It looked like it really hit him hard. What's the injury update on Raul?
For those who maybe didn't see it, Raul Diaz was taken out in the first game between Minnesota and Sounders in their Leagues Cup debut in a reckless tackle from Hassani Dotson. I mean, it was bad. It was jail time type of a challenge, and I was surprised that Eric Ramsey. I know that's his guy, but the fact he said he thought the ref was harsh just blew my mind. He got an extra game because of the severity of the foul. Uh, Dutson did. And Raul Diaz, in terms of physically, he was good. I mean, I said this right after the game. I had a video on my Twitter feed about him walking out off the field on his own, no support, no crutches, no need of anything. That was a good sign. I asked Brian right after the game. That was a good sign. We spoke to Brian on Tuesday, and he mentioned that Raul's going to tell you he's fine right now. He said he'll make it to Sunday's game. He's not going to make it. There's some swelling that we've seen. There's some swelling that needs to be taken care of. Brian said that MCLs are tricky, but that he doesn't expect it to be beyond 2 to 3 weeks. He's been training. He was training every day this week, off to the side, of course, doing some running, some sprinting, some ball control. So all those things are positive to say that it wasn't a severe injury. And I think Raul and the Sounders got lucky that that was the case, because it was pretty ugly tackle. But I think that he's in good health. I think that obviously he's not 100%, but again, the fact that he's out there running around, doing sprints, working on his game is a sign that he'll be back hopefully in between those 3 weeks.
How much Olympics have you been watching, either men's, women's, or any other squads?
A lot, not all soccer though. I am a big boxing guy, so I've been watching a lot of boxing. My daughter likes gymnastics, so I've seen some gymnastics. I thought the U.S. men's national team, of course, I've been able to watch consistently, especially with Josh Atencio getting his first start. I thought that was interesting. He came in the 56 minutes. I thought he did well. We've been asking all the guys here about, how do they feel for him? They're all excited. Brian, Yamar, everybody just is more than happy to see him out there succeeding. So I think that the U.S. national team has a good chance against a very good Morocco team that's going to really put them in, is going to give them, they're going to give them a battle, and they're going to have to play very well. So it'll be interesting how that plays out.
Reason I ask is because we've been covering what's been going on with Canada pretty hard, and the cheating scandal that's going on up there, where Bev Priestman, she has now been given a year on the bench. Assistant's been given a year on the bench. FIFA came out with their 26 page analysis and evidence. The Court of Arbitration for Sport came back as Canada appealed the 6 points, the 6 point deduction leading into the women's side of the tournament. What did you think about what we've seen from Canada Soccer, where now apparently it wasn't just drones not once or twice, but 3 times? And you have Bev Priestman, the head coach, who is, trying to continue to navigate apparently a culture of cheating and spying that goes back to it has been linked to in documents back to John Herdman. And it seems to be a part of a culture up in Canada. And you wonder how much Canada Soccer knew, or how much they chose to know in a situation like this. It's been a disappointing story to cover, but it's a story that we know we had to cover when it came to Canada Soccer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's an unfortunate reality as well, that we have some coaches that feel the need to do anything to this nature. I have a hard time putting into context how much advantage something like that provides you, and if it does, is it really worth it? And are you hindering the reality of the development, the success of your own program by doing it? So it's something that, again, I have a hard time just putting into mind what pushes you to do that? I mean, do you feel that insecure about your talent, about your coaching abilities, about your strategic ability, that you maybe not watching film is not enough, and you need to go and do all of these additional things that, again, make you look like a cheater, and as someone that is willing to do absolutely the worst to get a win, but then you put this awful mark on your country and your program, and everything that all of these athletes and this effort of the individual players are trying to uprise the country. So I think it's been awful. I hope that there is an example made out of them, and that they get hit with absolutely everything to keep this away from the sport, because it's unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary, and it's unacceptable. It should never be part of sports doing something like that. There's just no reason for it.
Well, and the John Herdman, who basically said, and this is a quote that's always going to stick with me, and I know I drive people crazy by always bringing this quote up when it comes to what John Herdman said. And Herdman literally said that, at no time during, and I love how he parsed it. I really love, and it was word salad of the highest order. It literally was word salad of the highest order, where he basically said that in my time as head coach at Olympic Games or World Cups, we've never been involved in any of those activities. He said that on Friday. So then when that came out, he had his press conference. That was the match day -1 getting ready for Red Bulls. He says that people get mad. They go to one of the biggest bulldog investigative reporters in Canada, and then they're like, no, that's not what happened. And so literally 17 players were in a briefing in a Toronto ballroom as Herdman played the video of the Honduran closed practice. Someone went to this investigative reporter and said, no, there were 17 people in a room. Herdman walked us through that tape. Canada played Honduras in a qualifier. They drew. But Herdman wanted the players to watch the video that had been taken.
Yeah.
There is nothing worse than somebody sitting there and saying one thing, and that the opposite happened, and the last thing you want to do is get somebody mad that you didn't want to get mad. And I think that that's what's happening here, where John Herdman seems to be the point of all of this scandal that's going on in Canada soccer. He said what he said on Friday, and so then yesterday he finally clammed up. He's like, I'm going to let the investigation take its course. I can't say anything further. He finally shut up, but it was too late.
Yeah. Don't put your foot in your mouth. And again, it all goes back to the initial root cause, and is your desire to win at all cost, and to lie to your players and give them unnecessary advantage over freaking Honduras. It's just beyond comprehension that you would do that with the talent that Canada has, with the golden generation that we've been talking about, that they've kind of put together. So it's just something that, for me, if that was my head coach, whether that's behind them or not, it would really make me consider a lot of things. I'm not saying they're going to get him out of Toronto, but you know what? I would not be surprised if that was to happen. It's just a bad rap sheet to have from someone sitting on your bench and having to morally speak to your players on a week-to-week basis and look at the camera knowing that you are just a liar, just in your face. Your pants are on fire every time you get on the mic. It's sad. It's something that I was not expecting. And when I heard it, I had to double check. I thought maybe it was fake news. I don't know. And then I realized that it really did happen.
Canada Soccer provided emails to FIFA as a part of the investigation. The Federation also wrote, but like I said, the Federation wrote, but how if you're the Federation, and this is probably something of a rhetorical question, how if you as the Federation did not know that this was going on? I have no idea. The Federation also wrote in the FIFA document, and we posted the link in the Twitch pitch, that it believes the spying program began with Herdman, who coached the team from 11 to 18, the women's team, then the men's team from 18 to 23, now coaches at Toronto FC. Bev Priestman, the coach that was suspended, worked as a technical assistant and an assistant coach under Herdman from 13 to 18. I'm wondering, and like I said, I don't know how Toronto FC reacts to all of this.
Yeah.
I don't know if they sit there and say, well, that was him with the national team, he's a different coach now. Or because he basically said what he said in the Friday press conference and then was called out in an investigative piece after the fact later that afternoon, and was, sources told investigative reporter, no, 17 players were in a room and Herdman was the one working us through this video. How does John Herdman stay employed? That is my larger question in all of this.
Yeah, I think they would have to play a blind eye. They'd have to really overlook it, and I think.
Does Toronto FC basically sit there and say, "Well, that was him. That was him then," even though he said on Friday what he said?
Yeah,
what he said a week ago was that, and he parsed it. Does Toronto FC sit there and take what he said on Friday, then was exposed for not being accurate in his statement? Do they parse that and sit there and say, well, he didn't say this, and keep him employed? How does Toronto FC work this forward, man?
I think that you're right. They would have to, in one way or another, just completely not care. I mean, we've been talking about Herdman's ability to at least get the Italians going, and his relationship with Bernadeschi and Insigne, and Toronto's not doing great, but at the end of the day, at least as a core group, they've done something. So if management and ownership decides that that's more important than just ethics and, just an outlook to your coach, then they literally would have to sit there and say, we're okay with this liar running our team. So they'd have to either be bluntly disregarding all of the reports, truthful or not. I mean, these are facts, right? And they could maybe sit there and try to draw a gray line in between it and just focus on the fact that this guy has done what maybe no one has been able to do with your more expensive players, or you plain just got him out and just say, we're not willing to take that risk. I don't care how good you've done with this team. We cannot have this be the face of our franchise. And I feel like that's the more reasonable decision. But when it comes to soccer, man, I don't know if it's going to be that clear cut. I do believe that there's some money that has also been spent on the coach, and that's not going to go away. This is not a reason that he's just going to break a contract. So knowing Toronto and the struggles that they've had over the last 5 years, I could see where they might turn a blind eye and decide that whether this is a PR nightmare, they're going to hold on to it. So I would not be surprised if they would keep him. But I think that the obvious decision here is kicking him to the curb.
All right. So what's going on with the Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar? I know you got a quick turn coming up.
Yes, we're coming up here in 55 minutes. We're going to be talking about all of things Leagues Cup. We're really going to go in depth into the big Mexican teams that have gone down, the reasons behind it, the resurrection of Austin FC and what they've been able to do all this time around. San Jose looking better. It looks like Hernan Lopez and Espinosa are finally finding their own little bubbles, their own little spots on the field. Bobosi getting some very needed confidence, getting some goals. So we're going to talk about all that. We're going to hear from Yemer Gomez Andrade, who, to my account, has already played 156 games for the Sounders. That's a big mark for the big center back. So we're going to talk to him. He's going to be on. So check that out. Then the interview would also be up on Pulso Sports, all in Spanish though, but it's going to be there here from Yamar. And then we're also, of course, going to have everything that we have gathered up across the week. I'll give more updates on Raul Ruiz, and it should be a good one at Soccer Bar and at Pulso Sports.
What he said. As always, my friend, it's great to see you here on Thursdays where you get to take us through what's on your mind out there out west. Enjoy your second cup of coffee. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, boss. We'll see you next week.